Hey y'all, it's Simon and Aaron with Assets and Arbitrage bringing to you a special show today.
Okay, so first things first. We are filming this show on Sunday, though it will air on Monday, right? So we want to give a shout out and say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We definitely want to give that shout out. Hope everybody's enjoying their Father's Day weekend. Secondly, we also want to say Happy Juneteenth to our people out there who do celebrate Juneteenth. I hope that you're having a great Juneteenth celebration. Hopefully you get that Monday off, depending on your job or your corporation. But yeah, we want to just talk about that. Anything you want to say?
We are currently on vacation, so we can celebrate our Father's Day with he is the perspective shifter. He is the professor as he homeschools our 4 beautiful black sons. He's the provider, the protector. He is all the things that a woman could want in a man for her children. So today I want to celebrate you and say thank you for your service. Y'all, I got the Tony Romo ribs for him. So after the show, we're going to go and celebrate with some tequila, some ribs, and some good food, some good folks, and lots of fun.
Yeah, yes, indeed. We will be, I'll just give you guys a heads up. I'm going to be having a glass of some fine tequila that
holla at us. We need a tequila sponsor.
That we received for Father's Day. So if I mix up some of my words, forgive me in advance. Forgive me, please. But we wanted to talk about a show that I think is very important, what's been going on lately. So a lot of, I've been hearing in the Bitcoin community, a lot of people are not happy with the price movement of Bitcoin. And I understand. I've been in this community for many years, and I've seen this before. Yeah. So we want to talk about something that I think is important with this price movement, and it is something called time preference. Time preference. So we're going to go into it. It's going to be a little bit more like a textbook situation. We're going to be reading directly out the book, talking about some of the properties of it, and we'll just keep it simple. We won't want to keep you long, but it's going to be a little technical. So let's go right into it. So we're talking about time preference, okay? So it is known in economics as time preference. Now they have some different names for it: time discounting, delay discounting, temporal discounting, and long-term orientation. Okay, so it is the current relative valuation placed on receiving a good or cash. When you say good, it could be an investment or something like that at an earlier date compared with receiving it at a later date, right? So let's keep it moving. Time preferences are captured mathematically in what is called a discount function. So what is a discount function? So discount function is, let's pull it up here. A discount function is used in economic models, right? It describes the weights placed on rewards received at different points in time. So for example, if time is discrete, right? If you have discrete time and utility is time separable, with the discount function having a negative first derivative, and this is where the it is a formula. If we could put it in a description if you guys would like. It is a formula that you can put up. So you have your first derivative, and in the formula you'll see CT, which is continuous time, which is also defined as consumption at time. So the total utility from an infinite stream of consumption given. So what does that mean, right? A lot of fancy words. What does that mean? Let's simplify all that. So basically, they're talking about the difference between what is known as high time preference and low time preference, right? So high time preference, by definition, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Let's not keep it too technical. So let's talk about the difference between high time preference and low time preference. So what would you say on that?
People who have high time preference typically want it now, correct?
Correct.
And people who have low time preference have the patience in order to wait for that gratification. So high time preference, you want the instantaneous gratification. Low time preference, you are willing to walk it out to get what it is that you feel is deserved.
This is true. So that is what we're talking about here with the Bitcoin investment. A lot of people want like we said before, they want the price up. They want the price up. It's a long term. It's like playing a long game, as they say.
Yes.
You know, you don't. Of course, you want it all right now, but like I said, I've been in here. I remember when it was $200, $300, $400, and you know, just to see how far we come from that time, right? Even though we have come back down further from where we were at, but it still has come a long way. So another thing is one thing we want to talk about with time preference, and it also has to do with your how would you say it? Your availability, not availability, your risk tolerance. We'll say that. So one of the factors that determines an individual's time preference is how long that individual has lived. So how old they are, right? An older individual may have a lower time preference relative to what they had earlier in life, right? Due to higher income and the fact that they've had more time to acquire durable commodities. So what does that mean? That basically means as a younger person, you can take riskier investments, right? Because you have time to make it back up if it doesn't work out for you, right? But if an older person, you'll have a lower time preference because you have spent a lot of time building up your assets, and now you have to protect them over the time period that you have left, right? So that is a thing that with the time preference, it will be sometimes it could be age appropriate, right? It also could be this is not something they're saying in the textbook, but it could be something as long as family, right? You know, maybe a single person could play it a little, you know, a little loose and fast, where somebody with a family, like, I mean, I got to play it safe because I got to have a college fund for my kids, and we got to retire, we got to have, you know, a place to live and things like that. Anything that you want to say about that before I go on to the next point?
I do want to say that a lot of the content from our shows permeates into multiple facets and aspects of your life. So while we are talking about the time preference that people have for Bitcoin right now, that time preference also can relate to your professional career, your professional development, your social development, your personal development, so on and so forth. And we'll get more into that a little bit later.
Right. And she brings up a great point because time preference, and I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but I said it's in economics, but time preference, like she said, permeates throughout your entire life. So what it is known for in psychology is delayed gratification. So it's the same thing. It's the same kind of concept. So delayed gratification just in your life in general doesn't have anything to do with economics. But we're just speaking on time preference based on economics. So we're going to go into the next point, right? So the next point, here we go. We're going to read the textbook style. So time preference, okay, is a key component of the Austrian School of Economics. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Austrian School of Economics. It is different, but we're not going to get all into the Austrian School of Economics. If we have to talk about that, you guys let me know, and then we can break that down as well. So it's a key component of the Austrian School of Economics. It's used to understand the relationship between saving, investment, and interest rates, right? And so that's important, right? Because it not as much as, I mean, interest rates, but saving and investment and the delayed gratification, and we'll use that for what you may have purchased today and what you may get out of it at a later date. And we talked about that as far as moving things across space and time. So these things will always kind of overlap. And I think that that's important because if you understand the delayed gratification model, right, then it gives you a different viewpoint on, okay, if I get something today and it's not going the way that I want, but I have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. Hell, you might have a 20-year plan. Like some families have 100-year plans. You know, you hear the Michael Saylor, he talking about 100 years in the future. And, you know, and it's one of those things that we had talked about before. Doing something that you may never see the fruit from, right? If I have a 100-year plan, obviously it's impossible for me to see the fruit of that plan. But I have, I'm selfless enough but I understand that I want to see it for my family, my generation, my progeny. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I want to make 2 points. So one of the things I've noticed in this space is that people, especially when they're new to Bitcoin, they're new to crypto, they don't have any education in economics. They don't understand US economics. They don't understand the models of global economics. So you're making decisions and doing things based on very limited information. Mm-hmm. A lot of people who are in the crypto space don't even know how the stock market works. They don't understand the technicals. They don't understand the ebbs and the flow of the market. You don't understand the ups and downs. So what happens is you have this new market. Crypto is relatively new, that now has a huge population of lettuce hands. And if you don't know what lettuce hands means, it means it's time for you guys to get in the books and start getting just at least a base of knowledge in something that you are financially invested in. And not only are you financially invested in it, this is your time, because your time had been traded in for whatever money you were using in order to invest in the first place. And not just invest in crypto or precious metals or financial things. It could also be the time you invest in other areas and aspects of your life. So this is why I'm going to keep running it back, that we're talking about time preference. Yes, you need to understand time preference so that you're positioning in, I'm going to say Bitcoin, but whatever crypto you're into is what you're into. Your positioning can give you a sense of understanding where you're positioned, what you would like to see, how it should go, how it is going. It's just to give you guys some reference as to what you're looking at as you're building your wealth blueprint.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on something she said earlier about the crypto market, right? When you deal with the stock market, investing in general, there are business cycles, right?
Yes.
And there's time, and you can go back and refer to old business cycles.
Yes.
But because crypto's so new, the business cycle is a little. There's not much reference on it, right? As crypto started early, and then we're talking 12, 13 years now. Yeah. That's all you have is reference, and you haven't seen the top and the comeback. So when you deal with business cycles, you can reference old. You go back to the 80s. We see all the we've seen all the crashes that we can reference back. You see how the crash happened. You see what happened during the crash, and then you see how the crash recovered. And you see these cycles come back and forth, ebb and flow. So it gives you at least a point of reference. You can look back, like, I've seen this before. I've seen how this happened, and this is how it usually ends or rectifies itself, and it moves on. So crypto's very new, where you just have small. Because we still always refer back to what, 2017,
right? So
that's our reference 5 years ago. That's our reference point in the crypto market thus far. You can go back a little bit further, but I'm talking about, as far as when large capital starts coming in. And now we're in a point where large capital is in. So now we're in a new space where it's like, okay, so we just kind of got to see where we're going to go here. And then you'll be able to reference back to this point, right? And that's just something to think about. We can do a little bit more technicals. So I like the Austrian Business School. We can look this up one day. Maybe we have a show about it. So, but the theory in the Austrian business cycle, so we're going to talk about the business cycle theory, is that credit inflation distorts this process by making it appear that more means exist for current production that are actually sustainable, right? Since this is in fact an illusion, and endeavors of entrepreneurs to create a structure of production not reflecting actual consumer time preferences as manifested in available savings for purchase of producer goods must end in failure. All right, so what does that mean? That means we've talked about these supply chain shortages, right? Are they true? Is it manufactured or the supply chain?
I think they're manufactured. I've noticed that there's a lot of fires that destroy, whether it's agriculture or plants. I don't know if you noticed that. But when you start, and this is why when he talked about the business cycles, that is what the economic models or any model is based upon for us to study, so that we can kind of have an idea on what's going on future-wise, right? If you study real estate, if you just study how, especially the U.S. economy works, it is fake scarcity. They fake scarcity. We watched a documentary. Was it Singapore?
Yeah,
Where the lady was saying only 3% of Singapore is actually developed.
Yeah,
they
3%.
have people living in cages inside of apartments. But when you look at the real estate that's actually available, it's a ton of real estate available. Yeah. And she was saying that the government, this is Singapore, you know America does it. The government fakes the scarcity in order to drive prices up so that large multi-global corporations can make a significant amount of capital. So as we start to study, and we implore you, EDX has 101 in economics. It could be U.S. economics. I definitely suggest that you guys, I understand that it's technical, it's dry, it's boring.
It is. But
the knowledge base has to be a part of your wealth blueprint. You have to have an understanding on what these models are based upon in order for you to have the perspective you need to build a wealth. Because like he said, a lot of the wealth that we are trying to build, especially as African Americans, is wealth that we aren't going to see in our lifetime. It is something you're instilling in your children by teaching them. That's nation building. It is a responsibility of the parent or parents who are raising their children in order to build that wealth for generations to come. When you listen to the Michael Saylors, you know he should be panicking if anybody should. Now, granted, he has the capital in order to add more Bitcoin so he doesn't get liquidated.
Yeah, he has access to capital. He has. I mean, yeah, he has access to capital, so he'll be okay.
But the mindset alone explains to me why he has the capital to do what he needs to do, because it's such a long-term mindset, and he's not worried about enjoying the wealth himself. He's worried about 2-3 generations of his progeny. I don't even know if he has kids.
But he still has a family.
Right, but he has a family. I know he talks about his niece all the time. I read The Mobile Wave. So he does have a niece that he absolutely adores. So he is concerned about the wealth of what his family should be seeing 2, 3, 4 generations from now. And we should be too. We shouldn't be telling our children to get it from the ground.
Right. I'm going, we talked about the business cycle. I want to just circle back. Like we said, time preference is not just for economics. So they have a study in psychology. It is called behavioral economics or behavioral finance, where they talk about time preference or discounting, right? And it pertains to a large premium of consumer that will place an enjoyment on near in time over remote enjoyment, right? So what that means is what? If you have, you are basically saying they are in high time preference and they prefer the gratification now than later on, right?
Okay.
So what they say is also, which I think is interesting, they said there's no absolute distinction that separates high and low time preference, only the comparisons with other individuals in aggregate. So someone with a high time preference is focused substantially on his well-being in the present and immediate future relative to the average person, while someone with low time preference places more emphasis than average on their well-being in the further future, right? So, and like we said, time preferences are captured mathematically in discount function. That's if you want to try to calculate your time preference in a formula. But basically, we're talking about people who delay gratification, who want something now, or do you want to put in the work and enjoy the fruits of your labor later? So that's time preference. We're going to keep we have to keep banging on that because it's important. It's important for people to understand time preference so you can see like, okay, I can see that it plays into your mindset, right? Your mindset is, do you want something now, or are you working hard diligently for something in the future?
I remember when you and I had talked about this as we were coming up with the content for the show, you had mentioned the importance of putting the productivity first, being productive first, and letting that gratification kind of spread out, because we talk about compounding. The reward that you get when you put that productivity first, when you're put that effort in first, the reward is so much greater.
Yes.
Right? Versus, let me just do this real quick so I can get this gratification real quick now. It's almost like, the quicker you jump into it, you get a reward, but that reward is almost diminished. It's almost the opposite of the law of diminishing returns, right? Whereas, let's talk about marriage. Yep, I'm gonna bring it up. Right? If you're young and you're married, instead of hanging out at the club with your friends and getting in trouble and doing stuff to mess it up versus let me go home, let me do what needs to be done, you can have that great 20-year, 35-year, 45-year reward. You know what I mean? Versus you've been, playing around, you're out there, you're 45 now, you're looking to settle down. It's a lot harder. Yeah. You don't get the reward you're looking for. You haven't built this thing up with this person. Education, right? If you're in high school, you're running around, you're playing, you're not doing your homework, you're not doing this. You notice that it's harder to get into college. And then college work's even harder. You're not studying, you're not focused. Versus the person who's like, no, I'm gonna settle down, I'm gonna study, I'm gonna do what needs to be done. College, graduate school, I now have a fulfilling career. Yeah. And now I have the lifestyle that shows the results of the hard work that I put in. It could be a business. A lot of people want these get-rich-quick schemes and don't understand that when you're putting a business together, you have to have a low-time preference. A lot of people aren't even profitable in business for the first 5 years. Isn't that the statistic? Whereas you have to keep working at it. What did Tyson say yesterday? We watched the Mike Tyson on Drink Champs, and he said...
Great interview.
He said something along the lines of doing it like you love it. Was it discipline?
What do you mean?
He was saying something along the lines of discipline is...
Oh, he was saying discipline is something, and he refers to this when he does interviews. Discipline is doing something that you hate like you love it consistently. Yes. Right? So one of his things that he talks about is he loved being Mike Tyson, the heavyweight champion of the world, but he hated training. Yeah. He hated training. Yeah. But he did the training consistently like he loved it, even though he hated it. And, and hate is a strong word, but it might be things that you don't like to do, but you do them consistently, and you'll get some of these outcomes that we're talking about over time, right? Because that's what we're talking about, having a low time preference, right? The time preference that, you forego maybe what you want to do now, or what makes you comfortable now so that you can have gratification in the future.
Raising children, right? There's a lot of sacrifice involved in raising children. And I'm going to say it, y'all could get mad at me, but it's a lot to raise Black children because they have to be better and more well-behaved and however the world sees children, they see Black children in a different light. So there's a lot of sacrifice involved in raising and cultivating and nurturing children to be well-adjusted, rounded viewed, not myopic mindset adults. And then, like we said, the gratification is when they're 20 years old, when they're 22 years old, and you hear them speak and you see how they carry themselves. You can be like, all of that sacrifice for the last 20, 22 years was worth it. Right. It was absolutely worth it. So understand that high time and low time preference permeates through every single aspect of your life.
Yes, indeed. So they have another, what would you say? They have another word that they use in the time preference from a technical standpoint. It's called temporal discounting. Temporal discounting. So let's read the definition of this. So it's also known as delay discounting and time discounting. So temporal discounting is the tendency of people to discount rewards as they approach a temporal horizon in the future or the past. So, for example, to become so distant in time that they cease to be valuable or to have additive effects. Right? So what does that mean? That means if the time is so far away that you don't even see the benefit of doing things for delayed gratification, then that's what they're saying right there. So, for example, sometimes young people, they live kind of fast and loose. They're not thinking about, when you're 21, you're not thinking about when you're 65. So you won't have a temporal discounting thinking about 65, right? You're just thinking about, man, I can't imagine being 30, let alone 65. So it takes some discipline for you to understand that you will eventually get to these ages, right? If everything, God willing, And so, but people don't think like that. You know, you can think about people sometime in some of the poor neighborhoods where there's a lot of violence. You would hear a lot of stories, especially from young black men, who say, "I don't think I'm gonna live to be 25." So what temporal discounting would they have to be 65? They just hoping to get to 25, and that's good enough for them. So you know, it like she said, it permeates throughout your life, right? But I'll finish out, you know, the definition.
But I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying, let's say a 21-year-old would give more value to being 25 than they would being 65.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And that's just how they, you know, that's how they put it. It's just a term.
Because they can't see 65.
Can't see it at all.
But that goes into people who don't have a retirement plan.
Right.
Right? They give value to that tax return that's coming in 9 months, but they don't give value to what type of savings they'll have retired at 60.
Right. And so, and I'm gonna read the rest of this. This is the book stuff, right? So to put it another way, it's a tendency to give greater value to rewards that they move away from their temporal horizon and towards the now, right? So the temporal horizon is further away, and you move the rewards to now, right? And so this is a pretty good analogy. So they're saying, so for instance, a nicotine deprived smoker may highly value a cigarette available anytime in the next 6 hours, but assign little value to a cigarette available in 6 months, right? And they use nicotine, but think about a drug addict or, you know, an alcoholic, right?
Or a shopaholic.
They put more value on getting a drink right now than they would a year from now. That drink a year from now don't matter because I want a drink right now. So this is temporal discounting. This is part of behavioral economics and the way that they look at it. And it's a big deal because it explains a lot about how people invest, what people do, how they spend their money as far as investing. I mean, we could split this, but I'm just talking about as far as investing. You know, seeing something they want the reward right now or in a sooner matter than what?
Then later. You're ready to sell your Bitcoin 2 months from now because it finally went back up to 50 instead of kind of saying like, if I hold on to it, my Bitcoin could be, you know, 92,000, 8, 10, 12, 15 months from now.
Right, but think about 10 years from now.
10 years from now.
So now that's where you have a temporal horizon that they're talking about. You know, that's what Michael Saylor's talking about. He's saying 100 years where you won't even get to see the results of what you did, but it still is, it's relevant, right? You know, I mean, that's about, I'm not going to go too much deeper. They got a lot of other stuff in here. I was going to talk about, I will talk about this one last thing, but we'll keep on going. We talked about before doing things that you will never see the reward of.
Yeah.
And how hard that is. But it should be done when you're building your family, but you're building out your progeny. Right? You have to think about it. I have 4 sons. I have to think about their children, even though they don't exist. We have to think about it. You know, we have to think about it. And we teach him to think about people who don't exist so that he can be always planning forward for the people who aren't here yet. But once they get here, they somebody has thought about them and they will have something for themselves.
And that's how other ethnicities and races, that's how they think.
Yep.
Right? That's how they operate. They prepare themselves. First of all, these other ethnicities, you don't get to walk in the house and say, I'm not having children. Right? That's out. The women can't even pull that in a lot of other ethnicities. Unless you cannot have a child physiologically, you don't even get to utter those words because they're always thinking about their progeny. They're always thinking about their legacies. That was the whole point of the creation of the will. The will, the idea is to ensure that I have all of these things prepared and left for you, whether you exist yet or not. As long as you have my name, you are called by my name, you are entitled to this wealth and these resources.
Yep.
And we need to operate at the same level as these other racial groups who prepare for their grandchildren or whoever. As long as you're called by their name, You got that last name attached to you, you good. You money in the bank. You can move around. You have resources. You have access to things and people, and that's how we have to operate. But that's a low time preference.
Yeah, you have to. Low time preference is going to take more discipline, right? And just across all lifestyles, whatever you do, the low time preference will take more discipline. Even think about something as I don't want to say it's simple, but think about something like weight loss, right? Low time preference and weight loss would be lifestyle change, right? It's one thing if you could go drop 20, 30 pounds, right, by exercising, depriving yourself, not eating, but if the weight's just going to come back because you haven't made changes. A low time preference would be, I made changes, I don't eat this, I do this, I'm active every day, and then all of a sudden you just lose weight in general because of your whole lifestyle, and that was the time preference, a low time preference. So like I said, it is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle change, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lifestyle modification because you have to do 1,000 little things every single day until the proof is in the pudding. And there is the self-discipline part, because the honest to God truth is you don't see the rewards of it every day. You don't see the fruition of what you're working towards every day. It happens. You get to kind of see it over a long period of time. And that's what makes it difficult. People want to see the reward right now. I want to drink this smoothie and lose 5 pounds today.
Right. And that's why I'm always I'm a big fan of dollar cost average in Bitcoin. Just buy a little bit every week, no matter the price, up or down, over time, right? Had you been buying a little bit every week since 2015, you see how far you'll be, right? And you could see it right now and say, okay, so 2022, but buy a little bit now, dollar cost average, whatever amount that you're comfortable with. And then one day you'll look up, it'll be 2030, and you'll be so far ahead of the curve. You're like, man, that's just the low time preference and the discipline that we're talking about. And we wanted to bring that up because I know the price action is disappointing to everybody, and we get it. I mean, we've been in this for a little bit.
Because I remember when Bitcoin was 69,000 and change, what were people saying? I wish I'd have bought it when it was 20,000. Then it went down less than 20, and those same people were bitching about it. And I said, but this is the time machine you asked for.
Yeah, you got it. So we wanted to bring that back up, just to get some perspective to what's going on. We're not really big on. I mean, we are in our personal life, but like with this show, we're not going to bring a whole bunch of charts and technical analysis because there's plenty of people who do it, and they do it very well. So we let them do that. We just try to give perspectives, kind of lifestyle perspectives, way to think about this stuff. We're just keeping it simple, right? We're keeping it simple. We want to talk about time preference. We can definitely go in deeper if we need to with what else? The Austrian School of Economics. If you guys want to know about that, let me know. Other than that, I don't really. Did you want to say anything else about time preference, or do you have anything else that you'd like to?
I think because you did bring up the development of a cycle, and crypto hasn't fully developed their cycle yet. We're all witnessing this new cycle, this new thing. However, I do implore you guys to, like I said, 101 economics course. I'm talking freshmen in college, 18-year-olds are taking these courses, so they're not difficult. And there's a lot of YouTubers who will break it down for even children to understand. So don't be threatened or intimidated or feel overwhelmed by the idea of taking an economics course. But if you are investing, you are putting money into a system of sorts, you should understand how that system works so that when these things happen, you don't panic as much. Right? We have a lot of investment in Bitcoin, so we're not happy about it being so low either. We continue to buy it. But at the same time, because we do have, and he has a way greater reference than I do, it gives you that perspective change in order to say, okay, this isn't as bad as I originally thought it was, because I just didn't know.
Yeah, I've seen worse. So.
Right.
But for low time preference, right? Low time preference, a good course would be macroeconomics, right? Because it gives you gives you the big view, but also gives you the long view. And that's the part, the low time preference. It gives you that longer view where you can see something out over 20 years of business cycle, stuff like that. Like I said, MIT open courseware. Great course on I took it, macroeconomics and microeconomics. Great courses, EDX, great courses on economics, blockchain, technology, and all this stuff. So, we continue to educate ourselves, and just so we can keep up with the times, keep up what's going on. But yeah, I just thought that the low time preference, high time preference, just the explanation of it might be good in these times where a lot of things are going, it's a lot of volatility, and some people are panicking. So we're trying to see, just calm people down and say, hey, just have that long view. Have that long view where you can see out a little bit longer, right? And yeah, anything else?
Just kind of walk it out. And most things in life that give us the greatest benefits are going to take a long time. Yeah. They're going to be dry. They're going to be a little bit boring. All the exciting stuff happens right now, and then it's over. It's fleeting. And I think that's an important thing to add for a lot of people, is people are looking for things to make them feel good. And the things that give us the greatest benefits in life don't necessarily feel good, but they are good for us. So I do want to just kind of put that out there. Take these courses, get that knowledge base up, spend time doing things that are productive and constructive for your wealth building blueprint, and watch where it takes you.
Right. Yeah, so we just wanted to bring that to you on this holiday weekend. Like I say, once again, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
We free, y'all.
So, yeah, other than that, nothing more. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. So let us know in the comments or emails, anything, if there's anything else you want to talk about, clarification on, or, it's good, bad, and different. But we love to hear the feedback, okay?
Bye, y'all.